this type of man. For a lot of people in our community that have their fathers who are absent, they haven't necessarily picked up on the same thing that you do as a new commitment to that child. Mm-hmm. What would you attribute your commitment to effective fathering in a way that a lot of people struggle with?
Effective fathering, well, basically, and I know everyone recalls the women's rights movements of the early 60s, 70s. Now, that wasn't engineered by any dark-skinned or melanated person. That was engineered by Europeans. So the so-called black woman would separate from the man and separate that community from the mother and the father. Now, what they said was, okay, you know what? You can have a house and this, and we'll provide you with that as long as you're not dealing with the man. Hence, in America, they have things like Section 8, and you can't be living with the father if you're wanting to get support.
So are you actually saying then that for you, what is
I recognize that there was basically a ongoing attack on the melanated family where they were trying to separate mother and father. Also, during the 60s, 70s, during the times my parents got together, there was a lot of struggles, let's say, in the so-called black community. Still didn't have any proper, real identity. We still don't.
But, and here's one of the biggest...
So don't blame him.
But here's the thing. Bearing in mind what you're saying, the importance of bringing the family together, the unification between men and women to raise their children. We know at the moment we're in a culture of selfishness and individualism. From your point of view, because let's deal with the practicalities, because like you, we've read, we've studied the research. Practically then, if you was to give a few pointers, and if you were speaking to Barnardo's, the Children's Society, Children in Need, you know, there's this perception of the black father. So my point of view, practically, what needs to be done to challenge that perception so that we can produce people like yourself times thousands? So what would you say?
Well, we need to stop listening to these songs that talk about all the women independent, throw your hands up at me, and all these separate.
But the feminists would argue that one of the reasons that they decided to go for independence is because the relationship between men and women historically was based on power and control.
Yeah, but that was to do with the Caucasian woman and man. We was good. The black community, so-called, I don't like. Just to the audience, I don't use the word black, but just to generalize, the so-called black community was good until they says, you know what, I think they're going to grow. We can't let that happen. We got to create something to out that.
But would you say that it's about reinforcing traditional roles? Would you say that the argument is, because some women might be listening and say, is he talking about he wants me to be in the kitchen while he goes out to work? So what I'm asking is, in a modern sense, in 2017, what do you think that family should look like in 2017?
Basically, there needs to be a spiritual / religious, I use religious the word loosely, foundation. Now, when you look at all cultures, they have that spiritual religious foundation. Now, because we're begging and chasing after something that's not ours, we're confused, we're lost, we're not going to unify based upon a colonial ideology, and that leaves us with no foundation to stand on. So when we go back to our original identities, you know what I mean, whether it's the Hamites, the Cushites, the Moabites, the identity from the melanated people thousands of years ago, the culture, how we lived, not the culture that's been stolen. When you look at Arabs, for example, we was all classed as Arabs a couple hundred years ago. Islam is not based upon a pale Arab ideology. Like, it's based upon a African spirituality.
But you talked about the issue of identity. Are we talking about cultural identity? Are we talking about an absence of cultural values?
Yes, and spirituality and morals, like I said, with the spiritual / religious base, that will give you that moral standing ground.
So where do we get those values from? Because you got youths on the road right now, 13, 14. They're listening to Stormzy. Some of them are carrying a gun. They might be selling all sorts of. How would you practically sell it to the fathers of the future who are living chaotic lives?
But you know what? It's really easy just to say, bro, look in a dictionary. There's a saying in many scriptures, man know thyself. If we don't know ourselves, then how can we be real men? Now, when I say easy answer is to look in a dictionary, because you can, for example, you can see what black means. It's not the first, second, third. It's the fourth description, what relates to anybody looking like a so-called African or having dark melanated skin. Now, when you look at the term more, it's the first description of identity of people that come from Northwest Africa, or Northwest Amexem is the ancient term for it. Northwest Amexem is Al-Kebulan and the Americas joined, because they're still actually joined together as a continent.
For youths from Aston, Handsworth, Newtown, Nechells, across Birmingham, who are at war with each other, struggling with each other right now, give me 2 or 3 things that, as a message, you say, look, I know you're young, I know you're angry, just like we've been. But in order for us to save the generation so that your children grow up feeling safe and they belong, what would you say as a man that's very passionate about this? What are some of the things that the youths need to be considering practically?
3 things.
Yeah, 3 things that they need to be considering practically.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, there's one thing that is fundamental for every man and woman to learn, because it happens every day, even when you're not involved, is law. The law of nature, the law of commerce, business, law. You need to know and study law.
So studying the law, right?
Studying the law, the basic principle. Second is self-defense. Self-defense can give you discipline, can give you confidence. And when you have that confidence, you're less likely to feel under pressure or feel that peer pressure from others to do something you're less likely to do.
So there's a strong importance around discipline. So what's the third thing that you would say? Another thing that for you is really passionate, important.
Know yourself. Be honest. When you're committing to something, commit to it, and look within yourself and know, am I doing this 100%? Why did I fail last time? Oh, yeah, because I actually didn't really study as I was supposed to. So look into yourself and know that, you know what? I know I can succeed because I put 100% in.
All right, I'm going to flip it now. Because from my point of view, I love what you've said. But imagine if you were big advertisers, marketing people. They're selling everything from fast food, fancy gadgets, clothes that you can wear. And it feels... People love that. So if you were talking to the corporate sector, because remember, our youths, when they're listening to people like me, maybe listening to you, they say, yo, that's a long thing, or they might be saying, well, I don't really want to listen to this. What is it that you'd like to say to the other side of the fence, who are selling our young people the kind of external gratification? What would you want to say to those people?
Well, this is the thing. Those kind of people have no real concern for society, the planet, world, their fellow man, brother and sister. They're all about living for the moment and money. So it's like, you know what? We have this yin and yang, this thing called ma'at, that we know there's going to be people that's negative, and we know there's going to be positive people. We just got to like, if you're bleeding in the water and there's a shark in the water, you know it's going to bite. It's sort of like knowing where the sharks are and leaving the shark to be a shark.
So
knowing how to, it's almost like knowing how to live in and out and contract. Like, I'm a free national, but I have a corporate name. That corporate name I use on paper only. But if anybody wants to bring that person physically into a hearing or into a, a situation where...
So it's about, I suppose what you're talking about, it's about knowing who you are, where you want to go. So one final question before we come to an end. In light of Brexit, Donald Trump, mass incarceration, increased violence on the streets, Do you think that your desire to see us more harmonious, is it idealistic or is it realistic?
It's definitely realistic because it's the time of right about now. We're in a period where the planet or the galaxy, the universe is in a, how can I say, an alignment, so to speak, where the vibration and the consciousness of the planet at this particular moment supposed to be rising. So I'm optimistic because there's people like myself, Itamar, who's out there trying to bring certain information, and a lot of people are waking up, and we can only come to a precipice, a point where things collapse or stop, and we're getting to that point real quick.
You know something? I'm glad you kind of ended on the word optimism. I want to say a really big thank you for coming. This is not the last conversation we're going to have. I just want to say big thanks. Big shout out.
To be here. Thank you.
So people, you've just heard it from my guest there, Setheru Bey. He had a lot to say. I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of it. And remember, the Roadman's Guide is about the community for the community. And also remember the 5 R's: read, write, research, recharge, and rest. Until next time, stay safe, walk good, and bring light into the darkness like my guest. Peace out. This has been the Roadman's Guide.